Select all the terms associated with depositional submergent coastlines. Again, depositional coastlines or submergent coastlines, those are the East Coast ones. All right. It's called a depositional coast because we are far away from a plate tectonic boundary. We are not being lifted upwards like they are here on the West Coast. West Coast is right next to the Juan de Fuca plate and the Pacific plate with transform and convergent boundaries. So the West Coast has uplifted area. These are erosional coasts up here where things are being broken down. Where we're at, very passive margin. Sands come and fill out. So all of the depositional coast features are going to be sandy features, and the erosional coastlines on the West Coast are going to be rocky features like this. The rocky features are the erosional coasts. They're going to have your headlands. The headlands are the areas of rocks that stick out. So that we're going to not do that one because that's a erosional feature. We have sea stacks out here where the waves cut down the rock. Sometimes when the waves come in, they hit against the side of the headland. They form sea arches and sea caves. So we can get rid of the sea caves over here. What else do we have left? Deltas, overwash, barrier. Yeah, it looks like those two are going to be the ones we're not going to select. But let's look at the other ones real fast here. We have barrier islands, nice sandy features like the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So that is something we will check. Spits and baymouth bars. These nature wants to smooth out the coastline, coastal straightening they call it. It wants to cut back the headlands that are sticking out. But if you have areas that are recessed like these bays, it also wants to fill those guys in. And so you'll have the longshore current will carry sand along, and it'll fill in the mouth of that bay, and that'll be a baymouth bar. And this will be another bay as it goes across. They call those spits. Spits are, one day they might be a baymouth bar, but it's just areas that stick out, like Willoughby Spit here in Norfolk, cutting across out into the ocean and really don't go anywhere. So spits would be a check mark. Deltas, I don't have a picture of it up here, but that's where a stream that's carrying all this sand hits the ocean, and it just drops the sand into a triangular feature. So that would also be something of a depositional coastline. Wave cut terraces. Yeah, I forgot about that one. That's down here. That's an erosional. We're not going to check that one. This down here is a wave cut platform. It's a flat area where the waves moving across have cut it down into a flat platform. That's why it's called that. Wave cut. A terrace is a flat area. And it's actually the rocks that have fallen down off of this that have moved back and forth with the wave action, have ground it down into a nice flat area. So the wave cut platform would be out here in this picture covered by the water. Lagoons. Lagoons are the back sides of barrier islands. So that is absolutely something we find here on the East Coast. Back Bay is a lagoon. The Outer Banks have a lagoon. The Albemarle Sound, those are the lagoon areas. Overwash fans on barrier islands, whenever you have storms that wash over the island, it carries some of the sands out here toward the backside, and they will pile up. But again, if you have to have a barrier island before you can have overwash fans, so that's going to be a depositional or submergent where we're drowning out the coast here and the sands piling up. And then we've already talked about sea caves. Sea caves are going to be an erosional feature out here on the West Coast type. So keep the East Coast and the West Coast geology, the coastlines kind of separated in your mind. West Coast, we're chopping things down. They've been pushed up because the plate tectonics has pushed them upwards, and nature loves equilibrium, wants to chop them back down again. So headlands and sea stacks and sea arches and caves, and this wave cut platform was grinding down that rock. And then the passive margins, like here on the East Coast, that's where the streams that are cutting the sediment, carrying the sediment, they hit the ocean and just kind of dump it all out. And so we find nice sandy beaches like we'd hear in Virginia Beach and in the Outer Banks, and those features like spits and barrier islands and overwash fans and deltas, those all form here on the East Coast.